Yay!
Hello.
All right, welcome everybody. It's Barney Kunze, and I'm the creator and founder of the Animal Wellness Summit. So thank you so much for being here tonight, not only to all of you listening and tuning in live from wherever it is that you are tuning in from all over the world, but also to our special guest presenters, Dr. Susan Albright and Phillips, who are fellow Animal Wellness Summit presenters. And they have some amazing information they're going to share with you tonight. And mainly, this has been inspired from a VIP coaching call that I had with Allie not too long ago, about 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago. And I was blown away at the information that she was sharing, even though I, listened to her presentation and went through a lot of the material in the summit. And I've been in Young Living and using essential oils for many, many years. But there's a lot of controversy and a lot of concerns about should you, could you, can you, how should you use essential oils with not only with animals, but specifically with cats. And we heard very loud and clear during the summit this past year in 2017 that there was a lot of questions about, well, how do you use oils? I go online and I search online looking for information on the oils, and especially just in general, but especially when it comes to using them with animals and then with cats, you can get more confused by doing more online research than you could if you just used your intuition. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is just also let you know for some housekeeping items. I'm going to just let you know here, I'm going to test something here. Okay, perfect. That if you guys have questions, go ahead and post them. I'm going to be moderating when Dr. Susan and Allie are going to be talking, but just keep in mind that doing a live call like this with two other people and trying to moderate, it can be a lot for my male brain. So just be patient with me, and also know that we can get to your questions after as well if for whatever reason we can't get to them, okay? So I'm going to bring Dr. Susan up for just a second. And I'd like you, Dr. Susan, just to give us a brief introduction, kind of who you are. I'm going to presume that most people that are watching right now don't know who you are, what you do. So let's just give them a quick little 1 to 2 minute summary, and then we're going to go over to Allie, and then we're going to kick it off with some questions, okay?
All righty. My name is Dr. Susan Albright. I'm from Chenoa, Illinois. It's about 2 hours south of Chicago, a little bitty, teeny tiny rural town on Interstate 55. Actually, my clinic is on Old Route 66. So if you do the Old Route 66 thing, you'll go right past my building. And I was introduced to essential oils for personal reasons in 2001 and the end of 2001. And then I really started incorporating them into my practice in early 2002. And I started off traditional practice, truly a 50-50 practice, 50% large animal, 50% small animal. And I have taken that right turn and become a primarily holistic integrative practice. Probably I'm 75 to 80% integrative holistic. I still do traditional, but the essential oils and traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic, nutrition, that is a huge part of my practice. But essential oils are really where my interest and my heart lies, and so it's a big part of what I do every day.
So that's pretty cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. And Allie, let's jump over you real quick, because there's a specific reason why you both are on the call. Maybe you can elaborate on that, but let's give everybody a bit of an overview, because you have a very unique background, and I didn't know that, so I think everybody else would be interested to know too.
All right. And hopefully you can hear me okay, because I'm on my phone due to technical issues.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So my name is Allie Phillips. I live in Lansing, Michigan, and I am a former prosecuting attorney. I have spent the last, 15 years educating criminal justice professionals. I teach prosecutors, law enforcement, animal protection, and family violence professionals, because my specialty is animal abuse and how it links to violence against people. So I've been traveling the world, and I'm internationally recognized for that work. I have written a couple of animal protection books. I've written a whole heck of a lot of academic chapters in academic books. And I also have a wellness business that originally started off as an energy healing business, because quite a shock to most people, this attorney brain is also certified as a master teacher in 3 different energy healing modalities. And what I have primarily been doing in that work is focusing on abused and neglected animals and shelter pets to help them feel better and be themselves when they're in shelter so that they can find a home faster. And so through all of that, I found my way to Young Living because I started thinking about, I had been using essential oils for 15 years, never with my cats, never around my cats. I'm not sure why, but I was just very cautious. And one day I realized that I needed to add essential oils to my practice. And when I Googled it, I found a lot of scary information. And instead of deterring me, that empowered me. And that's how I found Young Living. Because they were the only ones talking about oils for animals. So I joined 5 years ago and have been teaching ever since.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I just wanted to make sure I unmuted myself. So Dr. Susan and Allie, can you guys both, you can chat? Just check.
Great. Okay.
You
can you hear me?
I was just going to say, your audio is working. Okay, great. So I know some people are having challenges with getting in. I'm not sure why, but all you have to do is just click on the link. So if you guys are in the comments and you see somebody's having trouble, let them know. Thank you, Samantha, for mentioning this. Just go to the Facebook page and then you'll see the video and then you can click on it and go live there. I'm not sure, but when it comes to technology, there's usually a test of persistence involved about getting it up and going. So first question is, Dr. Susan, from your perspective, as a holistically based and minded vet, I'd like you to share a little bit about what's been your experience with using the oils around cats specifically, because we could get into animals at large just in general, but why don't you just share with us? Because I think that before you share this, I also want to note that there's all kinds of information that's online, and a lot of it is theory, a lot of it is there's a lot of opinions, and to me, I've always been a results-driven person, and so I like to really listen to people who are practicing, living, and breathing the information that I want to learn from, and I would put you in that box that you're doing that every day. So can you share with us a little bit more about what's been your experience?
Sure. Well, when I first started, it was with Young Living Essential Oils, and of course we started with the diffuser. I've had clinic cats ever since I took over the practice, and which has been since 1988 pretty much. And so like I said, I started with the essential oils in really 2002, and we've always had diffusers going, and that was probably, way back then, probably more than, when we have all this access to the internet. And I had my desk references. I looked at my desk references, and back then there was not a lot about animals there. And so I do have to give credit. I have a fabulous Young Living upline, and I went to a lot of their trainings, and so learned from other people outside of the veterinary world who've been using the essential oils, and then I've been using them in my practice. And a lot of, like I said, what we had to do back then, I can say, was we would look at what was in the reference books, and then we'd translate it to working with the animals. And the biggest thing that I was taught and I was aware of was, I would always say start slow and low and work up and observe. And I just got a pretty good acronym that came to me the other day, and I'm gonna work on that a little bit more, and then I'll probably post that. But I've been using the oils with really good results, but I know the quality of Young Living. And now when all this stuff comes on the internet, I'm like, you read about, citrus is, will, on all these things that will kill cats. And I'm looking at my cats running around going, okay. But then when you really start digging into that, it produces a lot more questions. And again, I have used Young Living from the beginning. I feel that I know the company inside and out. I know the oils inside and out, and it all comes down to quality, quality, quality. If I'm getting off track and going somewhere else, you don't want me to go reel me back in. But with cats, yes, they do have a completely different metabolism, and it goes into the cytochrome P450 mechanism for detoxification, and that's why we know that cats have trouble with certain non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like meloxicam and aspirin, that type of thing. Those medications can be used in cats, but it has to be very specific because their metabolism process to detoxify it and get it out of the body is different. I mean, you want me to go into the big gory detail on that? I sure can. But the thing is, they lack a certain enzyme system. It's because of their genetic makeup is a little bit different. So being aware of that is key. And I think a big part of this whole thing with cats and essential oils, and I know Allie and I have talked a few times about this, is, you know, what's online, it creates a lot more questions, and you have to go digging as to where this information came from. And from my perspective, the biggest thing, because I've been through classes with CARE, the Center for Aromatherapy Research and Education. I've been through the classes with ISHA, Institute for Spiritual Healing and Aromatherapy. And, you know, looking at the chemistry, I mean, I've studied, you know, I've been taught in some of these CARE classes with Dr. David Stewart. But the biggest thing that comes out of all this is when you break the essential oils down to the individual chemical constituents, that's where people kind of get weirded out about it. And if you look at just the straight phenol, which is where part of the problem with the phase 2 metabolism and the glucuronidation, where cats have problems because of the lack of glutathione. I mean, again, it can get really specific on that, but when man breaks it down, and then you say like, oh, be careful with phenols, be careful with ketones, be careful with aldehydes. Yes, that's true, but none of the essential oils that we're using is 100% phenols. None of the essential oils we're using is 100% ketones or aldehydes, where these individuals may have problems with it. What's the beauty of the essential oils is that it's all these different components, some of which we don't even know about, and they work together synergistically to produce the effects that we see, and that's why we're using them. And it's good to know the chemistry and know which oils are high in phenols, high in ketones or aldehydes, these type of things, but it's never 100% just that. And so when you look at a lot of these research studies that are out there, it's just one component. Man, I always say man, in our maybe not so infinite wisdom, breaks this down and looks at the little bits and pieces, because it's little bits and pieces. Oh, we can take this one piece and make it do this. And sometimes too much of that piece can cause toxic effects. And it's taking away from the whole, and it's the synergy of the whole that makes a big difference when you're using essential oils. And so from that, it leads into the quality of the essential oils. It's quality, quantity, frequency of use, intervals of use, and that's what's going to make the big difference with the essential oils. And it's all about the quality of the oils, and again, knowing how to use it. So you do have to have some resources. You do need to work with someone. It doesn't necessarily have to be a veterinarian, okay, but it needs to be somebody that you as a pet parent trust and knows that they have good experience. And again, start slow and low. I get asked all the time, what oils? Oh my gosh, people come up and say, what oils should I not use with cats? And I'm going to say, crappy ones. I mean, it's literally, I mean, that's the easiest answer. And because I could go through a whole list of questions. If you can't answer these particular questions about the oils, maybe you shouldn't be using them on that. So again, it all goes back to where the oils come from, how they're made, how they're tested, and it just quality, quantity, frequency, and interval. So that's where a lot of things start. And a lot of things you see on the internet are half truths. And it's not that they're completely wrong, but they're not completely true either. They don't give you the rest of the story.
Yeah, I think that's really good. There's a lot that you shared there that can give a lot of insight. And I think that it's great hearing it come from you, because just with the experience that you have as you're still practicing, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are still practicing. And
oh yeah, I made it back from a farm call just in time for this. So yeah.
I think I did hear you before we were getting ready, and somebody called and you're like, Is she breathing? Is it? Yeah, I heard you ask a couple questions. They're like, I've got a webinar I got to get onto, but I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
So this is okay. So that's really good. I appreciate you for sharing that. Now we're going to jump over. We're going to give you a break. We're going to jump over to Allie for a second, and then we're going to start getting into some questions because we've got some really good ones flowing in here. Okay. So Allie, based on what Dr. Susan said, why don't you share from your perspective? Because some of the things that you said on our call, on the VIP coaching call, was very interesting, and the fact that you being a lawyer and having done your research, and using the oils, I think that that's a very interesting kind of mix when it comes into considering all of the facts in order to make an effective decision. So why don't you jump right in?
Yes, so sometimes the fact that I'm a lawyer is a hindrance rather than a help. But in this situation, I've really used it to help understand why Young Living is the go-to company when it comes to oils and animals. And so it really comes down to this. Does the company on their corporate website, do they talk about oils and animals? You know, can you even find the word animal or pet on their website? And this is something that I actually check out other essential oil companies, and I go to their websites. I just did it about 90 minutes ago, and I checked the top 10 companies. And of the top 10 companies, of which Young Living is one of, there's only one company where you can find the word animal or pet directly in relation to using essential oils, using their essential oils. So for me, it just really comes down to common sense. And, you know, when I teach my classes and when I talk to people, and I work with a lot of animal shelters and animal rescues and people in the industry, and I just say, use your common sense. You know, if you had a brand like newborn baby, would you use a product that is meant for somebody who is elderly? I mean, would you use Geritol or Preparation H or, you know, anything like that on a newborn baby? And everybody says, well, of course not. I'm like, exactly. You go to their website and there is nothing on those websites about using those products with newborn babies. So we've lost a lot of common sense in a world where we have a lot of resources available. So to me, does the company actually promote their products to be used with animals? Can you actually find that on their website? You know, and then it's really looking at the label of the bottle. It drives me bananas when I research our federal labeling laws, because they are meant to protect us, but yet they are very deceiving. Because when it comes to essential oils in particular, there really are no labeling standards. So words such as pure and natural and organic actually have no definition when it comes to essential oils, because essential oils in federal labeling are falling under the Cosmetics Act. And there is no organic standard. The organic standard relates to farm animals and produce, and essential oils are not produce. So any company can put a label on an oil, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is what it is. And this is where you really have to trust the company. You need to know from start to finish that their process is completely pure and safe. And when I say pure, I'm not talking about pure that's labeled on a lot of essential oils. I'm talking about truly, like if you were to go and watch from start to finish, you would say, wow, they didn't use anything that could contaminate the lavender, the peppermint, the lemon. I mean, lemons are one of the most pesticide-ridden, you know, produce in the world. You really need to be very careful about that. And so I look at that sort of stuff. I look at the labels. I look at what the company does, not what people like me and Susan necessarily say, but does the company actually back their products to be used with animals? And then the other thing that really sold it for me was Young Living has a veterinary advisory council, and they put on the only like large scale national, international essential oil conference specifically for animals. And when you start adding all of that up and looking at the books that are being written about oils for animals, it's all pointing to one company. And, you know, and even when I look at their products, I mean, there's one product in particular that's been around forever that has tea tree in it, and it's specifically labeled for animals. And if you know, if this company, if Young Living's tea tree was so toxic, it wouldn't be in a product that's labeled animal sense ointment. But this has been around for a very, very long time. So it's that sort of common sense that we really need to use with essential oils, and not get so wrapped up in, you know, necessarily what we're reading online, because what we know online is not necessarily true. And a lot of graphics that I see flying around about don't use citrus, don't use sage, don't use whatever with cats, there's no authorship, there's no attribution. Who wrote that graphic? And that's the thing. Whenever I create something, my name is always on it so that people can come back to me with questions. So, you know, it's just using some common sense.
Yeah, and that, I'd like to jump in for a second. Can you, let me take this off here again. So really good. So I think that that's important. So first of all, for everybody listening, there's a couple comments I want to, questions I want to comment on, and a comment specifically. But number one, really what, to summarize what you said and what I got from it, was that when you're looking at the information, look at where the information came from, where the reference came from, the study, so to speak, because there's some questions about, well, what are the long-term studies about diffusing oils around cats? And by the way, somebody had said that I'm sounding a little screechy. Do I sound okay, or am I sounding really like I'm in a tin can? Oh.
It's not irritating on my end.
Okay. And I had you muted for a second, Dr. Susan, but I sound okay?
There's a little bit of a screech that I hear in the background, but it's not overly irritating.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that it's not going to continue and annoy you guys. But if you're on here live, thanks, Dana, just saying that it sounds okay. So somebody did, because it's nothing is more annoying than if you're talking and listening to the replay and it's just painful because the audio doesn't sound very good. But okay, so basically check where the information's coming from, because at the end of the day, there is the perspective that there's always an agenda. One of which somebody had mentioned here, I'll just say Sue, had said, actually the comment disappeared. And because I'd like to just actually kind of acknowledge this, because this has been important. Saying, I love animals and have used essential oils for 30 years. I'm always a bit disappointed that these summits sound like a commercial for Young Living. Not so sure this is a great thing. And so I really appreciate and love your perspective and sharing that, Sue. And the thing is, we don't ever want to have anybody feel alienated because you choose to use another brand or an oil from another company. But I have to tell you that when you start listening to experts or experienced people like Susan, Dr. Susan and Allie speak from experience, just so you know, they may never, you know, they're sharing this perspective with you with the oils that they have chosen to use. And you could go to another brand of another company and listen to the information. And what I like to do, because I have questioned in the past, well, is Young Living actually the best quality oil? I truly believe that they are. I know that they are because I've been to several of the farms myself personally, because I wanted to know if I was going to rest my hat on the future of me sharing Young Living with other people, that they're legit. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like, you know, there's in Canada, hockey's really big. In the States, football's really big. If we're all football fans, but we put a different jersey on, well, then that's cool, but we can still be football fans. So just know that, you know, we are passionate about Young Living, but you can still, if you choose to use another brand or you use another brand, that's cool. We encourage you to do your research, but go out. We don't want you to feel like, well, now I can't listen to this call because they're only talking about Young Living. These are the oils that a lot of the presenters on the summit decide to use based on their information and the education. Wow, the information they've been given and the research that they have done. So I just wanted to comment on that because the agenda that we have with the summit is to share very valuable information with you. And it just so happens to be that we are of the opinion that Young Living is the best essential oil company in the world. But again, if you're using another company, don't feel like you can't still stay and hang out with us, okay? Does that sound good to you, Dr. Susan and Allie?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to add a little bit.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, now I'm echoing. So I don't know if you guys, now it doesn't seem to be echoing. Okay, all right. Yeah. And I have no problem with what you said, and where it runs into, I guess, a little bit of a conflict or something I have to be careful about is when I have clients come in and they bring in this whole array of essential oils that they're already using at home. And when I start going through, okay, where did you get this? You know what's in it? Where is it from? When I go, they're like, oh. And if we're wanting to have me help them incorporate the essential oils into a wellness program for their pet, and again, it's also going to be affecting the family too, then I have to get pretty particular. And again, this is based on my experience. And if you want to use an essential oil from another company that I don't know anything about, I can't speak to that. And I know what works in my four walls. I know what works, with my hands. And it would be the same as, or maybe similar, if somebody wants to take a supplement and they don't know anything about it and they're going to take it. Do we know what's going to happen? No. And unfortunately, this is where, from a veterinary perspective, this is where, going back to the cats and the oils thing, a lot of veterinarians out there, unfortunately, are not aware of what essential oils can do. And in the veterinary world, if we're not trained or familiar with it, the better part of valor is going to be just to say, don't do it, because we don't know as veterinarians how to interpret what will that do in a situation where I know, if the animals are on this medication, we're going to do this treatment, et cetera, and then you have something that we don't know about come in on it. How are we supposed to voice an opinion on that? Yeah. And a lot of times people come in and they'll tell me, well, I've been doing this, this, and this, and this, and with whatever. And I'm not necessarily talking about essential oils. Well, then it's my job as a practitioner to look at the animal, evaluate it, and go, okay. This is one of the ways I've learned so much over the years, and I can say that over the years, is that, owners come in and they're doing all these things and I don't know anything about it. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go learn about it and see how that would affect. But one of the axioms that I go by is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if I think there might be an issue, then, as a veterinarian, I'm going to have to back off until I educate myself to be able to give and what I consider to be an informed opinion. But when it comes to the essential oils, like I said, I have to work with what I know and what I understand. And I do, unfortunately, have, and again, this is not a slam on any other essential oil company, but I have pictures, I have cases where other oils have been used, and whether it's been oils from different companies put together, or people have taken information that I have given about the oils I use and they ran out, and so they went and picked up something else, or they've mixed them, or they tried to do something with other oils based on the information I've given them with what I've known. So that's where I've really had to, I don't want to say pull back, but that particular tool goes back in the toolbox if I'm not sure that they're going to be using what I'm familiar with that I can help them with.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I'm going to pull Allie in again for a second. So that's because now we're going to get into questions. So thank you for sharing that. And I realize that the squeakiness might come. I'm going to mute both of you just for a second, and maybe that'll eliminate it. But I just want to say that I really love that you shared that, mainly because with me being a health and fitness professional and coaching my clients, I found the same thing where I had people like, oh, no, I can't use this, that, and the other oil or product. And I'm like, well, let's find, quality. And so I think that it's just good to know that. And why, really. I wanted to know, why did this guy, Paul Check, who introduced me to the oils, who's a world leader in holistic health, recommend only using Young Living for a reason? I wanted to know that I knew for myself, and he has never made a single dime off of anything that I've done in Young Living. And I think that's important to share. But when it comes to the quality, when it comes to me sharing with my clients, I have a we have, as professionals, for those of you who are professionals, trainers, vets, or any type of professional, you have an extra responsibility to do the research, not only for yourself, but if it's at home and something happens, I mean, it's not fun, it's not good. But if you start recommending certain products to clients or to patients, what have you, and something happens, there's an added element of challenge there. And I think that Ali could speak to that a little bit when it comes to the legal part. Now, the questions that I really want to get to, if you could speak to that, Ali, just for a second. I'm going to put you on the spotlight here about about that component that I had shared about the responsibility that professionals have, and then I'm going to get into, let's start pulling up the questions and start rocking through those, okay?
Yeah, and I really echo what Dr. Susan said, that when I teach about the essential oils for pets and cats in particular, I give this big disclaimer that you cannot take what I'm talking about and transfer it to another essential oil brand, because I either don't know that brand or I know enough that I'm not using that brand. And so you just can't take this information and transfer it over. And so I'm really clear about that. And for me, because of the work that I do, and I have not only a national platform, but an international platform, I have to be very careful about anything that I promote, because I don't want anything liability-wise coming back on me. And so for anybody else, you really need to be sure that, let's say you are using oils from another company, you need to make sure that it is okay with the corporate headquarters. Go to their legal department and ask them. And if they say no, then they're telling you the answer. So, again, it's really looking to what the company promotes their products for. And that's, I think I said at the beginning, I had used oils for 15 years, all different brands. I could have cared less about the brand. The cheaper, the better. I had no clue what I was doing. And, I just knew enough that they couldn't be used with pets. And luckily I started doing the research and found my way. And I look to, and I never say anything's 100% or, everybody. I don't use those sort of words. But when I look to a bulk of the experts in the field of animal care, they were all with one company. That tells me something. I mean, that really does tell me something. So it's just really important, if you're going to use a product on a pet and you're going to teach others to do it and you're going to recommend it, and and it can even be with people, it can be with babies, it can be with elderly people, it doesn't matter. You just need to make sure that what you're promoting is something that the corporation, the corporate headquarters, says is okay to do, and that just protects you in doing that. And I don't want to scare anybody away from sharing, but that's just really important.
Yeah, for sure. And that's from the legal standpoint, which is really good. And now I think what we should do is jump into the questions. So I don't know how you want to do this, if I'm going to, Dr. Susan and then Ali, or vice versa. But if you guys want to share, even because there's literally probably 15 to 20 questions at minimum here. But the first one, so what's a good reputable source that we can give to or send our doubters to? Especially those online who like to blow up our feed with "the sky is falling and you're going to kill all the cats" articles. So what are some resources that you ladies use and rely on? So Dr. Susan, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, I have a couple of Facebook pages that I put posts on. I've done videos on that, and showing application techniques, and it's, I always encourage people to have reference books on that. And I guess some of it depends on, help me out here, Ali. I mean, I go to Life Science Publishing, and they have some excellent references. And there are a lot of other books out there. And again, I know Dr. Nancy Brandt has some books out there that are really good. And again, looking at the source on where this all comes from. And if you are a Young Living member, your upline can also be a good resource too on that. And this is where, when it comes, I'm getting off track here. I'm not quite answering your question. I know that, but I just wanted to say this, that when you look at the essential oils and the way that they are marketed and promoted in the United States, a lot of them are an MLM company, and that really freaks out a lot of people. I've had a lot of veterinary professionals, I don't do anything that's MLM. And it is something that's different. I do think it is a valid business model, but when it comes to, I think it all goes back to this comes from plants and you can't patent it. And so when you go back in history and you look at how people learn this, how did the Chinese learn about their herbs? How did the Indians do what they did? And this was all passed down word of mouth, and you had to learn from somebody. And so that's where you really need to trust your resources, whether it's in print. And not everything in print, this is where it gets difficult, because not everything in print is true. A lot of it is perpetuating what I like to call the essential oil myths. And if you say something long enough, even though it isn't true, it kind of sort of becomes a truth. And you got to go do the backwards research to figure out where that's at. So that's where, going for resources, you can look to other people too. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, in my opinion, a veterinary professional. There's getting to be more and more of us out there that are doing the homework and having the experience over time. That's what it's going to take, is over time.
Okay, so that's really good. That's really good. And Allie, what about for you? What do you use? I feel like you have a couple links on your site, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah. My website is manifestedharmony.com, and I have a blog on there about oils for cats, and reference Dr. Susan, and and I use a lot of the materials from Life Science Publishers. I mean, there is an amazing reference that you can go to with that company, and written by experts in the field. It's a tremendous resource. So I go to the people who are doing this in their work, not just trying to grow a business. They are actually doing this in their work. Dr. Susan does this in her work. I do this in my work. This is what we do. So, kind of stemming, because I'm glad Susan brought it up, because I think it really does need to be said. People either love Young Living or they hate Young Living. It just, the only thing that I can think of is the business model. And so I always tell people, or I ask people, the computer or the phone that you are watching this on, do you know the business model of that company? Whether it's Apple or Samsung, do you know the business model? Chances are you don't, because you don't care. It doesn't matter. You like the product. So it's like, can we just take that out of the equation? That just has nothing to do with anything. My cat's here, my cat Rudy is begging for his essential oil treats right now, and he could care less about the model of the company. It's just he knows the difference between oils that are helpful and oils that are not. So I'm glad Susan brought that up. I just think that needs to be said for anybody who's watching, sure. That's just really, really important to keep in mind. But I just go to the people, like Susan, Nancy Brandt, I follow the people who are in Young Living's Veterinary Advisory Council. I learn from them. And, I think they're really great to follow.
I'd like to add something to that.
Yeah. And then we've got some specific ones for cats. And can
I add something?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, the other thing that I really am being compelled to say is when you ask for references and resources and people want to go to these books, please, 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 this is not a cookbook. This is not what holistic modalities are all about. And it's not to take the place, if your animal is sick, you need to have it examined. So it's not, taking the place of, and unfortunately, that's where I've had some unfortunate experiences with that. But any reference that you choose, anything you go to, please, it's not a cookbook. That's not how the essential oils are meant to be used. When you say, oh, I have this diagnosis, and you go to whatever reference and people start going, boom, boom, boom down that, it's not necessarily one size fits all with that. So I just really needed to say that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay, one of the questions I know one of them. The question that keeps coming up here is, again, for those of you on live, I am doing my best to go through and moderating these questions. We're going to go back through them, and then also after as a replay. And just as a reminder, this call or this recording, Facebook Live, is going to stay on our page. We'll also be putting it on YouTube. So for those of you who are not watching this now on Facebook Live because you don't have a Facebook account, we're going to share the love with you too. We're going to put it on YouTube because we had probably 15 people who emailed in after we sent out the email today, very upset that they wouldn't be able to get on because it's only on Facebook Live. So just keep that in mind. If you have friends that are not on Facebook, they can watch this after too, okay? So one of the biggest questions, ladies, that comes up is what oils are safe to diffuse around cats? And should the door stay closed? Can you leave it open? Just because that's where a lot of what's been shared. And again, keeping in mind that the information that people have been given, then it's, kind of mix it with common sense. I mean, to me at first, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Thinking about there might be some oils that are not safe for cats, or that that might potentially cause some challenges to them. But then also, because again, I didn't know, and I don't know as much as you do. So just speaking as somebody, like a lot of us who are on live, but then also that we have a small dog, Lucy, and there's times where we diffuse. I guess I always leave the door open. I never really have started a diffuser and locked the door and put her in there and said, hopefully you survive. But can you share that? Let's start with you, Dr. Susan. What's your perspective on that? And let's go over to Allie.
Okay. With cats, I think it's always safe to use a water-based diffuser. Again, being cognizant of the oils that are higher in the phenols, aldehydes, ketones. But then my question, sometimes when I get asked this, I usually fire questions back because I want to know I want to understand where the people are coming from. It's like, why do you want to use that oil? Why do you think you want to use that particular oil? But basically a water-based diffuser on intermittent setting, and then having, I think intermittent setting is important, and then giving them the option. I mean, there's times where we're using the essential oils maybe for something more specific, and I know I've had a video up of my cat. I was using essential oils on him, and I had him in a cage with a diffuser running on him, and there was a lot of comments on that, but people don't realize it was on intermittent. The oils were diluted with the water-based diffuser, and I knew why I was using what oil I was using. So always giving them an option to leave is good. I wouldn't recommend putting them in like a very teeny tiny bathroom with the diffuser going on full bore. And again, it depends on what oil you're using on that. So, I have no problem with Young Living citrus oils. I let my staff pick the blends of the day that we put in our 6 or 7 diffusers that we have going here. And we use all kinds of different oils. And sometimes we do use a little bit of oregano, but again, it's maybe 1 or 2 drops in the water-based diffuser. So I think if you use common sense, again, and there's an oil for that, but again, low and slow, water-based diffuser, and give them an option to leave. If you want to corral them in a carrier or a cage, then again, on, off, maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most. Let them go do whatever the cat does, and then see how they respond. Yeah. And then maybe come back in later and do it.
And see how they're responding. You're not getting feedback from me. But I just thought I'd pull this up real quick from Eileen. She said they tried to use peppermint and some citrus oils as a deterrent, and both my cats love them. So I think that this is where, like when I had a friend who was having some sleeping issues, and I'm like, okay, use some lavender. And she called me at like 11:30 and said, like, are you kidding me? I'm all wound up, and like I put this oil on, and she used peppermint to go to sleep. And I was like, what? Like, how does that even work? I'm like, I use peppermint to like wake me up, peppermint pump, peppermint pick me up. but everybody's body is biochemically individually unique. And I would presume, asking you guys as the experts, that that animals are the same, and so they're not all going to respond the same. And so what you just said is really just comes down to judging by how they respond, not like experimenting without common sense, pun intended, because there is a blend common sense. But I think I just wanted to add that in there because I think it is just taking a step back and not getting too overly analytical about it.
Mm-hmm.
So Ali, let's let you share your perspective on that. And I think I'm going to put you on solo screen here. So let's go for it.
So the whole time Dr. Susan was talking, my cat Rudy was sitting here smelling lemon oil because he loves it. I diffuse citrus oils every single day. I have 4 diffusers in my house. The cats come and go depending on what they want to smell. So no, I don't lock them in a room. I mean, you just never would. That's basically like, locking yourself in a room if you don't want to be. So to me, it is never about the oil, lemon or eucalyptus or sage or whatever. It's about the safety of it. And I've never had a problem with citrus oils. I've been diffusing them for 5 years. My cats drink citrus oils. And I have a 20-year-old, almost 20-year-old, who just hopped into my lap. And she drinks citrus oils every day. So to me, it never has been about that. I get their liver values tested. It freaks out their veterinarian because it's very contrary to her to hear about the oils, and then they look so good when they go into the vet. So that's not how I look at it. Again, I go back to, does the company, are they safe? Are they safe to use?
With the quality, so I can imagine the question is going to come up, like, the cats, consume them or eat them. So I think I know the answer to this, but share with us, like, you're not like taking the cat and saying, here, like, let's get some down there. Let's get into that, because so there's the diffusing. We're going to start there because the 3 ways to use essential oils in general is diffusing or inhalation, and then topical application, and then orally ingesting or consuming them, which they're all internal ingesting the oils, just how it's getting into the body. But we talked about the diffusing part, but now why don't you just hit on that with the consuming, because there was questions on that, like, well, can my cats like take it internally? How are you doing that? And then let's go over to, or how are you with your own cats? And then let's talk to Dr. Susan in a second.
So, and this is my practice, but Young Living has a drink called Ningxia Red. It's a whole body nutrient infusing drink, and it is packed with citrus oils. My cats, I drip a couple of drops in their wet food every day. So no, I am not prying open their jaw and jamming it down their throat. That takes skill to do that, and I don't have that skill. I just put it in their food. I don't put it in their water. I've never had the need to do that. I just do the Ningxia Red. There's been a couple of other supplements where I've broken open the capsules and put it in their food, and they eat it. They love it. They really, really do. And, you brought up the, smelling, topically applying, and ingesting. With any of those ways, it's going into the bloodstream. And this is where I think a lot of people have not, kind of grasp the whole concept. If you are using aromatically a fragrance oil that should not be used around pets, they are smelling it in just like they are ingesting it, or you are topically applying it. And that's something to really keep in mind, that no matter which of the 3 methods, it's going into their bloodstream. And so you just really need to be safe about it.
Okay, I couldn't unmute myself fast enough because I was responding to a question. Okay, so basically, can you clarify that again and just summarize before Dr. Susan jumps in, is that you're not actually giving the oil directly from the bottle to them. When you say internal ingestion, or they take them internally, is it via only through some of the supplements or Ningxia Red? Or are you putting it in, are you putting like a drop in a big container of water and they end up drinking that?
No, I don't put oils in water. I put it in their food. So I put 3 to 4 drops of Ningxia Red in their food, and Ningxia Red has lemon oil, orange oil, mandarin oil. I mean, it's got a lot of citrus oils in it. And they have been taking that in their food for 4 years.
So
every day.
Okay. So that's where, and because I think that's the other thing too, is that essential oils are really the essence of the plant. When you're eating any vegetable or any root or anything, you're eating the essential oil because it comes in fully packaged in. You know, it's just that when it comes down and they're distilled and they're concentrated, that's where I think, at least from my perspective, that's where the concern comes in, because then it can be too much for the body to handle, especially when it comes to cats. So you're not like this. It's smaller amounts in a longer period of time. And again, if you guys are, for all of you listening live, if you don't know what Ningxia Red, it's essentially an antioxidant drink that's amazing, and it has oils in it that is approved for internal ingestion, and it's pretty amazing. And I know, Dr. Susan, let's jump over to you now here for a second about your perspective on that.
Well, I can't say enough about Ningxia Red, because I have seen it do amazing things with the cats. My own cats get it every day, mixed in with their food, and I just take the big bottle and pour it in. Oops, sometimes my cat's even gotten like a tablespoon mixed in with his raw food. And I mean, sometimes it's like that we go through a lot at my house, but that's a great way to give it. And I usually, again, it's always, you start literally with cats with 1 or 2 drops, and then you work up, see what they tolerate. But then the other thing that I think is really important to think about too, when, think about what cats do. They lick themselves, okay? So anything you're diffusing, those little droplets are going, they're teeny tiny little droplets, but they're going to settle onto the cat. And like Allie was talking about, that this is going to get into the cats, either being, oils are lipophilic. So it's going to be drawn down the hair shaft into the skin, into the bloodstream. And cats are going to lick themselves, okay? And they're going to get it that way too. If cat may not voluntarily ingest Copaiba, for example, but if I think a cat should be ingesting Copaiba, and we may add it into the Ningxia Red, or we may pet wipe stroke it, 1 drop, maybe 2 if 2 drops comes out. But then we're going to rub our hands together, we're going to pet wipe stroke, and let it be, okay? Because they're going to get it in, because I heard somebody say a long time ago, and so it wasn't my initial words, but if you put it on a cat, it's going to go in a cat. How true is that? Because they lick themselves, okay? So they can get it orally, and it's not a matter of putting it directly into their mouth, because if you're diffusing, it's going to come down, and when they're going to absorb it, they're going to lick themselves on it. So again, there's a lot of different ways to use that. So like I said, I just can't say enough about Ningxia Red for what it can do for keeping your pets above the wellness line, so to speak.
So to clarify that, because I think this is where you unless I miss something, because I'm male brain, maybe not good at multitasking, I'm going through and moderating the questions here and trying to stay on top of everything. But did you both say that you don't give the oils, it's mainly Ningxia Red? You're not like giving oils other than a little bit that's in their food, or is it then only Ningxia Red?
Well, again, I might add something, again, depending on why I want to use what I want to use. Right. I have been known to add it into the Ningxia Red because they tolerate that. We get them used to it, or I might add something to that. Sometimes I'll put Copaiba into the Ningxia Red. Some cats don't like that so much. So that's where then I might do the pet wipe stroke topical application, knowing it's going to get into them in another manner. Right. So it's like Allie said, you pilling a cat even with like an oil capsule. Yeah, you gotta be quick and fast and know what you're doing, because that cat is going to not like you very much. They're going to be out of there. They're going to get near it. So there are other ways to do that. And I generally do not put oils in the water either, because you don't want to, especially a cat that's on a dry food. I mean, that's a whole nother situation. You never want to turn an animal, whether it's cat, dog, horse, whatever, off their water source. And so getting it snuck into their food is probably the best way to do that. But again, I cannot think of let me think here, where I've actually used like a whole entire drop of oil into a cat's mouth. I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever done that. And it's going to be diluted because, again, those oils that are in the Ningxia Red aren't that potent. So you get a lot of good things with just a little bit of that. And that can be another vehicle to get other oils if you would so choose to do that in them. But again, why do you want to use what you want to use and go from there? Okay,
so you're going to say something, Allie?
Yeah, and for me, I start with the least invasive way, which oftentimes, which Rudy has been circling me, I just open up a bottle and I let them smell it from the bottle. Yeah. Right. Or I'll put it in the diffuser, and then I'll start ramping it up. You know, from there, I'll do a topical. You know, the Ningxia Red is just easy. I take it in the morning, they get it in the morning. But, you know, like Susan said, it's, if there was a more intense oil that is needed, I'm not going to start with ingesting. That is the most invasive. I start with the easiest, because whether you smell it, topically apply it, or ingest it, it's going in. So I will start with something like this and just, you know, wave it in front of their nose. I do that at shelters. I'll walk in front of cages and kennels, and I will just start waving the bottle. Here, Rudy.
Yeah.
Demo.
There. Just wait. Let me put you on solo for a second.
Okay.
So what did you do?
Oh, here, Rudy, smell. Yeah. He just took a smell. It's copaiba, which is the softest smelling essential oil that I know of. It's always my go-to, especially with cats. It's so easy. And he just took in a couple of big whiffs of it. Let's go even more potent. Let's go lemon. Yep, his nose is wiggling.
Yeah.
So he just smelled in lemon. That's one of the least invasive ways. You can diffuse with a water diffuser, or just have him smell from the bottle. So, you know, for me, I don't start with ingesting. Start easy. Start with the least invasive.
For sure. And I think that, I wouldn't either. I think that your starting points would be the inhaling, and then topical, which we're going to get into, and then last would probably be ingestion. Would you both agree with that? Like how you do it? I guess it depends on the situation, of course, right, Dr. Susan?
Yeah, it's
like a hard, fast, black and white rule, right? Yep. Okay, I was leaving this comment up here from Jennifer just because I think that, you know, for cats, how do we know which oil is best? Just trial. And I think that if it's safe to say, if you'll agree with me, that the answer would be yes, not just like haphazardly, but trialing, like just by maybe putting a little bit on your fingers and just holding it up to them and seeing how they respond to it. Because the cats, I like to say this, like the cats and the dogs and the horses, they don't have a programmed, you know, rational thinking mind. They just react and respond instinctively and energetically to everything, right? Not just the oils. And so I think that that's good to keep in mind, that it's at least what our experience has been with our little dog, Lucy. So would you both give us a high five for trialing based on what you just showed there in response to Jennifer's question?
Well, I think for me it depends on, again, what oil are you wanting to use and why are you wanting to use it on that. And then you can definitely, I mean, that's what you would do. But then also sometimes you're going to be in a situation where you know, maybe, okay, I know this individual needs this oil and they're exiting the building, and then we have to get maybe a little bit creative on how we're going to help them with that. But again, you know, doing the diffusing and letting it and doing the little smelling. And I mean, some of my cats will do what Allie's guy did. others are, they're just out of there. And so we just do a lot with the diffusing.
Right. No, that's good. Now, this question here, Dr. Susan, can you hit on this? From Kelly about why does the ASPCA say that some oils are toxic for cats, but YL says they're okay? And I think that I feel like that the quality part is really a big component, but is there another angle that you would approach with that?
Well, this is where when you see some of these statements, especially that ASPCA from their poison control talks about, it never talks about, I've not seen one that says what brand. And again, when in the poison control and in the emergency rooms, these are the cases where veterinarians are going to see these, these individuals that have been exposed to who knows what. And a lot of times, again, I don't see where it says it was brand X or brand B and how much was the cat actually exposed to. I mean, I have one of my upline, whose cat did die from walking through a poor quality, 1 foot in a poor quality tea tree oil. But, this was before, when you know better, you do better. And so this is where some of those, this is where a lot of this misinformation is out there, because this is where you have to address the quality of the oil, the quantity of the oil, and you're going to see a lot of these mixed messages. And this is where veterinarians who are not familiar with good quality essential oils and how to use them are going to see these kind of things and have these kind of knee-jerk reactions where all oils are bad necessarily.
Yeah, I was just, thank you for that, because and by the way, is my audio okay, or am I sound like a robot?
You're good.
Okay, so I think that's really good when we look at like the FDA, when the FDA stepped in to help manage the guidelines that are to be kind of followed when it comes to the information that's shared about essential oils. What was happening before is that it was like the wild, wild west. You had people saying, use this oil for like this disease and this ailment and all this stuff, and it was confusing to people, the general public, or we'll say the newbies to essential oils, or people that haven't used them or are not really sure. They got so confused because they're like, well, some people were making all these claims and saying all this stuff. So now there's the regulation essentially has been enforced. And I think that's kind of where the question comes in, where if there's a lot of different animals or pets that are coming in, or people that have been unfortunately negatively affected by the oils, or potentially that they have to, this ASPCA have to take a kind of broad stroke approach. They can't play favorites, so to speak, or say, well, this is fine and this is fine. And what you're saying, Dr. Susan, at least what I heard from you and Allie so far, is that, again, it comes down to the quality based on what you've used, based on what you know. And again, I'll just restate this, that we're all on Team Young Living, but if you're on another team and you feel 100% super, confident based on that, then that's great, because we're all here to share based on how you get to that outcome. And I just want to mention that. So, Allie, let's hear from you, and then get to another question.
Well, going back to that question, so what often runs through my mind when someone has a cat or a dog that is presenting with, toxicity, are they really being questioned about what cleaners are you using because your pet is walking on the floor and licking their paws? What aerosols are in the home? Are you using fragrance plugins? Are you using candles? And I can tell you from the veterinarians that I have taken my cats to, those questions weren't being asked. But if there is toxicity, many veterinarians will ask about essential oils. And so I don't know if and I would love Susan's opinion on this, but it actually could be a lot more. Even if that essential oil was never meant to be around an animal, there could be far more toxins in the home that have created a problem over time. And actually, this did happen to a friend of mine, her dog. Now, luckily, the dog is fine. But when they started digging in, they found that the home was just full of so many toxins that they couldn't narrow it down to one thing. I mean, Susan, have you found that to where that can you even test to see, what is the toxicity being caused from?
Contacted, on social media, and well, I think it was in response to a post. That's what it was. It was a response to a post, and it said, that that her animal went to UC Davis and they knew it was the lavender, and it was good, it was good quality lavender. I believe she said it was Young Living lavender that caused her dog to have problems. And so then when I started quizzing her more privately, what was the blood work? What was this? What was that? Oh, I couldn't afford to have that done. So how are you going to tell? And again, something different had changed, and I don't know, I do not know all the specifics, but this is where you really have to play detective and get in there and ask all these little questions. And where somebody has an animal that's presented to an emergency room or wherever for whatever reason, and they start going through and essential oils are such a hot topic now. It's a big question on the list. And then they do blood work, and the blood work is all wonky. But what was going on before that? Because I mean, I have lots of cases where, and just like you, Allie, where your pets have serial blood work, they're exposed to good quality essential oils, and everything's fine. So what else is going on? And I see a lot of animals, especially as they get older, that have been on heartworm medications all their life year round, flea tick medications all their life year round. All these things where we start to have liver and kidney issues as they get older. Diet plays a big part of it. I can't even begin to talk about the whole fragrance thing, plug-in thing, and that type of thing. And so, and a lot of times we don't even start looking at this until the pets get older. And it's like, okay, we got to do some things. We got to change some things. So environment is a huge, huge part of that as well.
Yeah, and I think that contributes to the overall picture of just kind of, getting your home and your house toxic free, and getting, in my gym, I think the new owners of the gym will probably never watch this, but I spent so much time using Thieves Cleaner, using different products in the gym and introducing people to the oils, and getting out that we used to have the old spray things in the gym or in the bathrooms that would time every hour and spray. And those things are like an aerosol can, super toxic. We never had Glade plugins or scented candles, but other things, and then we clean that all out. Now there's Glade, I shouldn't say Glade, there's plugins. I don't want to name a brand, but there's plugins, and there's aerosol spray cans in the bathrooms, and there's just scented candles, and it's just like I was getting headaches, and then it started to occur to me, I'm like, well, this was never in the gym before. Now I spend a third of my life here because my office still right now is in the gym that I've now sold, and I'm just saying this for me that I've been using them, and I eat fairly healthy. I'm a fairly healthy 34-year-old guy, and I'm sensitive to that. And I think that what you're sharing, ladies, is really important because it's really like looking at it in a petri dish and being like, well, there's these other factors from a holistic perspective when it comes to the nutrition, the nutrients, the environment, and all the other factors that go into considering, what did or didn't cause a potential health concern, or what could cause a health concern, which, I just wanted to share that because I feel like that can resonate with a lot of you or at least it does to me anyways, with what you've been sharing. So, but Allie, any other thoughts on that? Because I want to get to a couple more questions, and then we're probably going to we might have to do part 2 on this because we've planned an hour, and there's literally probably another 30 questions that won't be able to get to. Now, maybe, if some of these we can go back through, and Dr. Susan and or Allie, if they have the time and if they're willing to do so, can answer some of the questions. But we might be able to take them and do a rapid fire Q&A, because the dynamics on a live call like this can always lend itself to being a little bit longer than normal. But Allie, based on what Dr. Susan just shared, what else would you add to that?
She summed it up. I mean, there are so many toxins in homes that we need to stop, like, jumping the gun on essential oils and blaming them, because there are far worse things going on in the home. And, if you have a dog who loves to lick your hand and you just put a toxin hand cream on your hand, I mean, come on, folks. It comes down to common sense. It really does. But most people have no clue that they are putting toxic products on their body that their pets are licking off, and that their home is full of toxic products. I mean, this is really not known to a lot of people because people are busy and they just don't look into this stuff. So this is just common sense. So
I just pulled up this comment. I don't, Sherry, hopefully you take my laugh and a little bit of humor out of this. I was saying that our church is trying to kill me with toxic fragrances. I walked out twice and am now unable to speak. I've tried to talk to the leadership, but they're not on board. And I just put that up there, not because it's actually funny, Sherry. I'm putting it up there because, unfortunately, that happens more and more. And I think that the more that the toxic load in humans' bodies and animals' bodies continues to escalate, if your body's not healthy, vital, and strong and can't detoxify, eliminate, and remove them, then you start to get a buildup and everything starts to summate in the body. And animals are just like us as humans. And then you start to have weird reactions like that where you lose your voice or something. And Dr. Susan, I'm sure you probably saw that happen in animals that have come into your clinic, that there's just been, it's not just because, you know, they did or didn't do this one thing. It's been an accumulation of many things that probably has contributed to whatever it is you're working on them with, right?
Oh yeah. The biggest thing it's one of my first questions, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen it with new puppies and kittens that come into a household. They come in for their first wellness checkup, and well, geez, he's been sneezing. You know, we've had him for 2 or 3 weeks and just started sneezing, and then we start doing all the, you know, what do you use it? What's in the, you know, what kind of plugins are you doing? Yep, put it, and gee, they turn around. And so it's huge, and they're so much more sensitive to that, and they're right down there on that. We're up above, but you know, when the things like what you were talking about that go off every time you come in a room, all those chemicals actually then float down. It's on the floor, and that's where they're at, and they keep picking it up. And so, you know, same thing with, you know, the air freshener or the candles, you know, the different scented candles. And that just leaves a lot of residue. We don't necessarily appreciate it. And we have clothes on. Okay. We have clothes on. They don't. They're walking through it. And, you know, cats, they're licking themselves, the dogs with their pads. If they lick well, even it's just going to be absorbed on that. So it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. And this Crystal was just saying, put a comment here about people have been burning candles in their homes, and besides using toxic cleaners and many other toxic materials around pets for years, why all the concerns now about EOs only? And I think it's just because they've become a lot more popular. But again, folks, this is nothing new. You don't have to go too far to do a little bit of research to look at the fact that the Egyptians and a lot of biblical references mention essential oils, so this is nothing really new. It's just the way in which we want to be able to be educated and empowered to use them will serve us all at the highest level. So one other last question, ladies, and then let's jump off here, because I know that this was the only time that we could make work. Just so you guys know, listening in live, we as in Allie and Dr. Susan and I took about 2 weeks to find a time slot that would work to be able to fit it into their busy schedule. So just want to say high five and you know, share your gratitude out and pour it out for these ladies, because I'm just facilitating, they're sharing the knowledge. So we really appreciate it, by the way, Allie and Dr. Susan, for you taking and making the time to be with us tonight to share, because this is just really helpful. But this one question, I actually can't find it right now, but somebody had mentioned that they said with their cats, I think, that they took toothpick and then put it in the lemon, and then they have 2 water bowls, and they would put it and then dip it in the one water bowl and swirl it around, or for the cats, and then have the regular one, and then the cats can choose which one they want to drink out of, and at least gives them options so that it's not like you have to only drink out of this one or this one. Have you ladies done any of that before?
I know clients that have done that, and I can't really tell you what they prefer. I know I've had clients do that with the Ningxia Red and put it in the water with Ningxia Red, and then just straight Ningxia Red. Some cats will drink the straight Ningxia Red, others will do it in the water. But then I still recommend clear, you know, what I call clear water, or, you know, clean water, something without the oils in it. But the toothpick method is a great way to see if your pet, you know, dog, cat will tolerate it. And if they can, great. But again, you remember the oil is going to sit on top, so that's why you don't want to be putting drops of oil on top And I know sometimes people with horses and peppermint in their water tanks, horses do tend to like that. That might be a little bit different, but the toothpick method is a great way to start.
Okay. And Allie, what about yourself?
To me, it's just not necessary. If you really want to get lemon oil in your cat, you can topically apply it, or you can diffuse it and have them smell it. You know, I'm with Susan on this one. I don't put oils in water just because it's not necessary. There's other mechanisms to get the oil in the cats.
Right. Okay. So last thing I promise, because actually 3 things. Okay. One, I want you to just share your because I did a call with Carol Cometer from another, I think it was last week or the week before, from Healing Touch for Animals, and that was amazing, the information that she was able to share. But can you tell us about topical application, just in a because that's a I think we kind of briefly touched on it, but there's people asking here, like, well, how do you physically apply the oils topically to the cat? And just give your quick little suggestions on that. So
okay.
let's
I'll go. I just do one drop on my hands. I first of all, I would say you can never go wrong diluting essential oils for topical application. When in doubt, dilute it, and that's fine. I personally rarely dilute the oils that I use. I'll put 1 drop in my hand. I rub my hands together, and then I pet, wipe, stroke all over the cat, because I mean, I'm going to be absorbing some of that. So it's not like you're dropping the oil, the complete drop of oil right on the pet. And rub your hands together, pet, wipe, stroke all over the body. I did a video here a while back. It's on a couple of my Facebook pages. Can I say my Facebook pages? Essential Oils with Shanoa Vet, Vets, Pets, and Young Living Essential Oils in a Pet Home. The video is out there where you can see that. So that's one of the easiest ways. Like I said, if you use a carrier oil, make sure it's a good quality carrier oil, especially on cats, because they're going to lick it off. They're going to lick it off. So you don't want to have a bad carrier oil as well. And sometimes the carrier oils will make their hair coat, especially if you've got a long-haired cat, might make them collect dust, make them look a little greasy, oily. You don't want to turn them into an oil slick. And so, again, just 1 drop between your hands, pet, wipe, stroke. That's how I do it.
Okay. That's great. Thank you for that. And Allie, let's hear from you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, same thing. But every now and then I want to create a blend. And so I use my old bottles. I clean them out. I stick a little label on them, and I do dilute these. So again, you got to pick a really quality carrier oil, because if you have a really good essential oil and a poor quality carrier oil, what's the point? So a good quality, carrier oil, and then I just dilute it. And I have it all ready, and then I just put a drop on my finger, and I always put down the spine, because the oil is going to go to where it needs to go. I'm not a fan of putting oils on paws. I know some cats are good with that, but to me, down the spine, it's all you need to do. Okay,
so you put it a little bit on, and put it down the spine, and let it go through from there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And if I can get Rudy back in my lap, I can demo.
Okay, yeah, let's see that here. I think this is going to be helpful. And then we'll wrap it up and give each other a virtual high five.
Boop, just like that. It was that easy.
You just put a little bit right there.
Boop, down his spine.
And look, he's still alive.
And it'll go through where it needs to go through. I personally keep oils away from their face because they have a heightened sense of smell.
Yep.
And just right down the spine, I start halfway down, and I go to the tail. And if he wants to lick it off, it's super safe. And if he can't reach it, all right, so be it. And he's happy. And, oh, you smell really good, Rudy.
So I know that there's a lot of questions for those of you still on live, which, by the way, there's over 130 of you still on live. And I know that what's going to happen is that this post is going to completely blow up. What I would love for you to do is to reach out to Dr. Susan at her clinic. And now, Dr. Susan, before I say this, Can you verify, like, are you in a position where if people call you and they're not local to you, do you do phone consults? Because I can tell you right now, there's a lot of questions that were health related that I didn't mention. And by the way, if you are watching this and still live and waiting, like, Barney, please ask my question, or we didn't get to it, mainly just because I knew it was going to open a ball of wax that might put Dr. Susan and Allie in a challenging position to be able to answer compliantly. And so my question to you, Dr. Susan, is that do you do that? Like, if people have some questions and they need to ask you, do you do that? Like, do you do phone consults, or are you only just like in-person work?
No, I do consults, and it kind of depends on the situation and the case. And so the best thing would be to contact the clinic, and then we can see if it's an appropriate setting to be able to do that. So I mean, there are some restrictions on that, so we have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, and I just think that at the questions, I mean, the thing is that there's questions that are out there that people have that I know that are.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that gets really hard, because people will say, "Oh, I just have a question," and they ask a very a question. But like I said earlier, one question usually leads to a bunch of others, because it's not just about what do I do for this, what can I do for this, because we have to have more information. There has to be more information, because I mean, people sometimes get upset when they're messaging me on Facebook because I really can't answer that, because, oh, I just wanted a remedy. Well, when you look up the definition of remedy, that, on a social media platform, that's going to be considered diagnosing and prescribing.
Right.
And there's so much more that's involved, instead of, when you say, and people don't even realize that, an allergy, or my dog has been diagnosed with this or that, and they don't understand. And we want to help. We truly want to help. And when it's your pet, you are going to be concerned. And there's a lot of times there's other people that I may be able to refer them to in their area. So that's why I say, we have to get a little bit more information before we just, carte blanche across the, we can do a consult, or we can help you. Yeah, I mean, our goal is to help in the best way we can, compliantly with the FDA rules and everything.
Yeah, and I think for those of you who are wondering why, I can imagine if you're listening to Dr. Susan's answer, the reason is that with her being a practicing, still, what was the proper terminology? How do you refer to yourself as a prop? Wow,
I work.
Prop is up because my brain's done, but you're a whole vet.
Yeah, I have an active practice. I'm a solo practitioner.
Yeah.
We don't even want to go into how many hours a week. That's neither here nor there. But I love what I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm a practicing veterinarian of over 34 years, and I own my own practice. And
okay, so and the reason I ask you that, just to clarify, is that when you guys are going to call Dr. Susan, keep that in mind, mainly because with her being an independent distributor for Young Living, there's certain guidelines and regulations that we are in a position to adhere to in order to be compliant with the FDA. But then when it comes to just working with her or some of the other holistic vets that are part of the summit, that you can reach out to them. But I just think it's important that when you take and listen to what she just said, because I know that some of the questions that you have, you got to look at the other side of trying to find the information, and it is well beyond worth your time to pay for a consultation to get some direct and specific guidance, or get to some resources. And we're going to post your website and your Facebook pages, because people were asking here, Dr. Susan and Allie, for your Facebook pages and your website, so that you guys can all follow them. And then if you have questions, you can follow up as well. So, Allie, did you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we part ways tonight?
Just use common sense. And when you do that, you don't have to worry about what you're doing for your cats. I mean, they just, if you are using essential oils for yourself, why not give them the benefit of essential oils? Just make sure that they're going to be safe.
Right. That's good. Very simple. And on that note, I'll give you guys a high five for both of you. Good job. Great job. And thanks everybody for tuning in live. And by the way, I will say this because I'm in a position to do so, is if you think I did a good job, you let my boss know and I might get a raise. And if not, then just keep your opinions to yourself. There's my little bit of dry sense of humor for you. And also remember that we right now are gearing up as we kind of finish things off here, is to our animal wellness VIP membership. We did the summit last in 2017. It's coming up in 2018 later in the fall. There's Dr. Susan and Ali and a bunch of other presenters. I don't actually know the exact count. I just know that there is about 58 presentations that are still accessible through the summit that you can access during this weekend. So I'll put a link in here that you guys can sign up for free for 72 hours starting this April the 27th or the 29th. And if you're watching this after and a future date is a replay, then just go to our website, animalwellnesssummit.com, and you can check in to see when we're doing another 72-hour replay. It's going to be probably in July. And then that's when we open up our enrollment for our Animal Wellness Summit membership, where you guys can be a part of a paid membership for less than $1 a day to have access to all the presenters. And the feedback that we've been getting from the VIP members has been great, because there's questions that they've gotten answered, or somebody else has asked a question in the group. And they're like, well, I had that question. And I've had at least 3 situations so far where somebody's messaged me, one of the members have messaged me, 3 separate people, that said that what they learned, there was something very specific that Dr. Will Falconer shared. And they're like, I was going to have to take them to my vet, my dog to my vet, and that probably saved me a couple $100, which more than paid for my membership. And so, yes, that is a little shameless plug for the Animal Wellness Summit membership. But we really would appreciate it if you feel inspired in what you learned tonight in this call and this webinar. You can support us in our mission so we can keep serving you, so we can keep sharing the love on all these amazing presenters like Dr. Susan and Ali, and the work and the education and the programs and the books and everything that they put out there. If it resonates with you, go and support them as well. We really just want to be a good resource for all of you. So thank you, and peace and God bless. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you guys in the future, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good night, or if you're in Australia, have a great rest of your day.